Hi, I'm James, this is Molten Make, and today we're going to make a custom t-shirt that looks like this! The first thing you're going to want to do is pick your fabric. I've chosen a cotton with a bit of stretch in a grey marl, which is one of my favourite colours. I've used my pattern to give me a guide of how much fabric to cut down, and then I'm going to wash it, because you don't want your t-shirt to shrink after you've made it. And trust me, it's really disappointing making a t-shirt and then finding out after the first wash, it doesn't fit you anymore. Now every pattern's different. The one I have has a separate piece for the top half that you interchange based on whether you're going to be making the back or the front. There's even a section for V-necks. Now you attach whichever section you're going to cut to a generic bottom half, and that is your template. It's just simply a case of cutting out all the parts you need and then putting it together. Most patterns come as half a design, so that if you put it on a folded edge of fabric, you can cut it out and end up with symmetrical pieces. There's a couple of ways you can cut it out. You can use a rolling knife like this, or scissors. Both are going to work, but I find these knives a little bit easier to use. Sometimes I find that rolling knife doesn't quite cut through everything, and in that case I just use the scissors to finish it off. It's time to sew it together. First of all, I'm going to sew along the top of the shoulders, joining the front to the back. Then I want to add the collar, add the sleeves, and sew up the sides before finishing everything up with a hem on both of the end of the sleeves and on the bottom. So let's get to it. When you pin the shoulders together, you're going to want to attach outside to outside face. So this darker side is going to be on the inside eventually. That means once you've sewn your seams, you can flip everything back round the right way and everything will look neat and tidy. There's a number of ways in which you can join the fabric together. I sometimes use clips like this, and other times I find it easier to use traditional pins, like you can see here. The next part of the project is probably the hardest thing. It's attaching the collar to the shirt. The idea is to stretch the collar without stretching the shirt so that it fits evenly around the fabric. Now this is going to take a lot of time and a lot of readjustment, so use plenty of pins, and if you need to put a stitch in here or there to hold it in place temporarily, then go ahead. After the collar, I attach the shoulders, so you're left with just the sides to do. This makes it very easy to run a seam up both insides and have the t-shirt done. And you can see me pinning those sides together here. You run all the way along the sleeve, down the side and to the bottom. And this is what it should look like once you've sewn them together. Right, we made a t-shirt. All I've done is add a hem to the cuffs and to the bottom, and that's it. You could leave this project right here and you'd have a perfectly usable garment, but I want to add a couple of special touches. First of all, the Make a Skull challenge, I'm going to add a design to the front of this using a vinyl cutter. And secondly, you got to add a bit of Molten Make to make this a personal thing just for me. I got these printed online, they were pretty cheap, and I got about 15 of them, just so if I ever make another t-shirt, I can have these on all of them. So let's get going adding this and then the vinyl design. To create the skull design, I found an open source picture, traced around it in Illustrator, and then added text to the top, the bottom, and the middle. And I've used the eyes to cut around the oar, and the jaw and the forehead to cut around the other parts. Then over to the CNC cutter to cut things out. Remember to flip your image, because otherwise it's going to be reversed when you put it on the t-shirt. If you like peeling the stickers off something that you've just bought, then you're going to love the next part. It's called weeding, and it's where you remove the parts of the design that you're not going to apply to the t-shirt. This is a heat transfer vinyl, so you use a combination of heat and pressure to apply it to the t-shirt. Next up, Halloween! And you can do whatever you want with the offcuts. To apply the transfer, I heat up the t-shirt first to make it a little bit more adhesive. Don't use any steam here, and use the recommended temperature that the manufacturer provided. Different parts of your iron are not necessarily going to be at the same temperature, so you can buy one of these little thermometers and it'll give you an idea of what temperature you're at. Of course, there are commercial presses that do both heat and pressure for you, but this isn't something that most people are going to have, and I found that I got really great results using just the iron alone. The key thing I found is to put a lot of pressure down and less about moving the heat around. The vinyl manufacturer should tell you how long to press for and how hot. Mine was 10 seconds at about 150 to 160 degrees. and then you could peel off this protective film either when it's hot or when it's cold. If there are any areas that aren't quite stuck down, you can put the film back over and use a bit more heat and a bit more pressure to make sure everything's in place. And here it is, the finished article. Now I've got to say a big thanks to Karoline and Giaco for putting on the Maker Skull Challenge, which inspired me to make this t-shirt. Now if you want to do something similar, you can head over to my website maltandmake.com and download this design for free. Or head over to Instagram and see what everyone else has been doing using the Maker Skull Challenge hashtag. In the meantime, it'd be great if you could check out some of my old videos, and if you're new here, consider subscribing. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one, guys. Bye.